Capitula 1. It was supposed to be our escape. I'd been looking forward to this trip for months. It was supposed to be a break. A reset. We both needed it, me, especially. Work had been brutal. I was juggling 2 roles at the firm after someone quit, and the pressure never stopped. Meanwhile, Jason, my husband, had been pulling away. Not in the obvious sense. He still smiled, still said love you before bed. But something was missing. Like he was halfway gone, just, polite. So when he suggested a trip to Cabo with his college friends, I thought it might bring us closer. I was nervous, yes, I didn't know them well, but I told myself, maybe this is what we need. From the moment we landed, I felt the shift. His friends weren't warm. The guys were loud, inside joke types. The women? Picture-perfect influencers. Not a real conversation in sight. I felt like an outsider at my own vacation. Still, I tried. I laughed when they laughed, even when I didn't get it. I offered to take group pictures. I suggested a boat ride, hoping to loosen things up. But Jason? He barely looked at me. At dinner on the second night, things cracked. The table was huge, set right on the sand, with candlelight flickering in the wind. The wine flowed fast, and someone dared everyone to share their wildest relationship story. That's when it happened. Jason leaned forward, chuckling. Okay. Mine's about our first vacation together. He pointed at me, half drunk, got food poisoning after 2 bites of fish, and we spent the whole trip in the hotel bathroom. Romantic, right? Everyone burst into laughter. I didn't. He saw my face. He saw me clutching the napkin in my lap. But he kept going. She cried because we couldn't go snorkeling, he added, mimicking a whiny voice. I was like, you're the one who ordered the weird octopus thing, babe. More laughter, and then, silence. Because I stood up. I couldn't breathe. The sound of the waves. The clink of forks. Their stares. I mumbled, excuse me, and walked away, leaving my barely touched plate behind. Chapter 2. I smiled so no one would ask questions. I didn't go far, just far enough that no one could see my face. I walked along the shoreline barefoot, letting the cold water numb my ankles, my thoughts, my pride. The resort lights blurred behind me, and I told myself one thing over and over, don't cry. Don't give them that, this wasn't new. That was the part that hurt the most. Jason had a way of turning my vulnerabilities into punchlines. Not always. Not at home. But whenever there was an audience, friends, coworkers, strangers, something in him shifted. Like he needed to be the funniest guy in the room, even if the joke cost me my dignity. I remembered a dinner party back home where he joked about my student loans. A work event where he told his colleagues I was too emotional to handle leadership. Each time, I'd brushed it off. Smiled. Told myself I was being sensitive, but tonight felt different. Tonight, I felt small. When I finally went back to the table, dessert had arrived. Everyone was relaxed, buzzed, sun-kissed, careless. Jason barely looked at me. Just slid my chair out with his foot and whispered, "You okay?" I nodded. Of course I did. That night in the hotel room, the silence was louder than the ocean outside. He lay on the bed scrolling through his phone while I stood in the bathroom, staring at my reflection. My mascara had smudged, and my eyes looked older somehow. Tired in a way sleep couldn't fix. You didn't have to storm off, he said casually, not even looking up. I closed my eyes. I didn't storm off, I replied. I removed myself. He scoffed. Same thing. I waited for an apology. Something. Anything. Instead, he said, "You're too sensitive." Everyone thought it was funny. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not anger. Not sadness, clarity. I crawled into bed and turned away from him. He fell asleep within minutes. I didn't. I stared at the ceiling and thought about how often I'd minimized myself to keep the peace. How often I'd swallowed words so he could shine. How often I'd told myself this is just how marriages are. The next morning, I woke up early. Jason was still asleep, sprawled across the bed, peaceful. I watched him for a moment, trying to remember when I'd last felt that peace beside him. I slipped out quietly and went down to the lobby cafe. I ordered coffee I didn't really want and sat alone, watching couples laugh over breakfast. That's when his friends started arriving. Morning, one of the women chirped, sitting at my table uninvited. Rough night, huh? I looked up. What do you mean? She laughed. Oh, come on. Jason was just joking. You can't take things so personally. Another one joined in. He's hilarious. You're lucky. Lucky. I smiled. Again, inside, something hardened. Later that afternoon, we all went on a boat excursion. The sun was brutal, the music loud. Jason barely spoke to me, choosing instead to joke with his friends, arm slung around one of the guys, beer always in hand. At one point, I tried to sit next to him. He leaned over and said, quietly but sharply, "Can you not cling right now? You're killing the vibe." That was it. I stood up, walked to the back of the boat, and stared at the horizon. The water stretched endlessly ahead of me, calm and unforgiving. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to think the thought I'd been avoiding. What if I don't have to stay? That night, while everyone went out again, I stayed behind. I told Jason I had a headache. He didn't question it. As soon as the door closed behind him, I opened my laptop. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from adrenaline. I pulled up flight options: economy, business, first class. I stared at the first class seat map longer than I should have. It felt indulgent, defiant, wrong. Then I remembered his voice from the night before, mocking me. The laughter. The way no one defended me. Not even him. I clicked. I booked the flight. One seat. Window. First class. For the following morning, when the confirmation email came through, I didn't feel guilt, I felt relief. For the first time on this vacation, I slept deeply. Chapter 3. I walked through that airport like I owed no one an explanation. I woke up before the sun. There was no hesitation. No double-checking. No last-minute anxiety. My bag was already packed, just the essentials. I left the rest behind. That felt symbolic, somehow. Like shedding a version of myself I no longer needed. Jason was still snoring, one leg kicked out from under the sheet, mouth open. I watched him for a few seconds, not out of love. Out of recognition. This is the man I let silence me for years, and this would be the last time I'd tiptoe around his comfort. I left the hotel room key on the desk. No note. He wouldn't read it anyway. At the front desk, I smiled for the first time in days. The woman checking me out asked if everything had been satisfactory with my stay. I nearly laughed. Instead, I said, I got exactly what I needed. The cab ride to the airport felt surreal. The streets were still quiet, kissed by the earliest light of morning. Palm trees passed by like silent witnesses. My phone buzzed once. Jason. I didn't open it. Another buzz. A text this time. Where are you? Then. Is this another dramatic thing? I turned it off. When I arrived at the airport, I looked around at the sleepy travelers in sweatpants and hoodies. I didn't match them. I'd changed into a crisp linen shirt, high-waisted jeans, sandals that made a soft click on the floor. My hair was tied up neatly. I looked like a woman with a plan, because I was. When I handed over my passport, the airline agent raised an eyebrow. First class? She asked. Yes, I said calmly. Just me. She smiled. Something about that small gesture, no judgment, just a nod of acknowledgement, hit deeper than it should have. For days, I'd been dismissed, laughed at, ignored. And now, here I was. Seen. Security was smooth. I had time before boarding, so I headed straight to the lounge. It was my first time in a first-class lounge. I didn't try to look like I belonged, I just decided I did. I poured myself a mimosa. I sat by the window. I watched planes take off and land like symbols of all the places I could go. Then my phone buzzed again. This time, I looked. Jason. Seriously, where the hell are you? You left? This is insane. Everyone's asking where you are. You're embarrassing me. There it was again, asterisk you're embarrassing me starred. He was humiliated. Not because of what he'd done. But because I had left without permission. Without explanation, I didn't reply. Instead, I took a photo of my mimosa with the tarmac in the background. I didn't post it. I just saved it for myself. Proof that I chose peace over performance. Boarding was called. I gathered my things and walked slowly, deliberately. As I stepped onto the jet bridge, I felt lighter. Not because I was escaping, but because I wasn't running anymore. I was walking towards something. The flight attendant greeted me with a warm smile. "Good morning, ma'am. Welcome aboard." "Thank you," I said. And I meant it.my seat was wide, private. Champagne was already waiting. I sat down, exhaled, and closed my eyes. That's when my phone vibrated one last time. I checked, half curious. "Jason. Wow. First class? Seriously? Who even are you right now?" I looked at that message for a long time, then I opened a blank reply and typed. Someone who finally got tired of being the joke. I hit send, then I turned on airplane mode and smiled. Chapter 4. I wasn't broken, I was becoming. The landing in LA felt different. I'd flown into this airport dozens of times, always rushing. Always tired. Always returning to someone who only noticed I was gone when I came back. But this time, no one was waiting, and that felt okay. I stepped off the plane like a woman returning from a war she never admitted she'd been fighting. Not with bombs or blood, but with silence, with shame, with pretending. The air outside the terminal was thick with city smog, but I breathed deeper than I had in weeks. A taxi pulled up, and the driver opened the door. I slid in, gave him my address, and leaned back. Halfway home, I texted one person, my sister, Emily. "Hey. I'm back. Alone." She replied almost instantly. "Come over. I'll make tea. And bring the truth." I smiled. It had been a while since I'd been honest. With anyone. Even with her. I dropped my bags at the apartment, barely glanced around. Everything looked the same, but I didn't. I grabbed a hoodie and headed to Emily's, hair still smelling like airport soap and sea breeze. She opened the door with no questions. Just pulled me into a long, quiet hug. We sat on her couch with chamomile tea and a bowl of popcorn between us. The second she sat down, I broke. "I booked a flight and left him," I whispered, eyes welling up. "I know," she said gently. "I saw your flight info. You sent it to me months ago. Remember?" I blinked. "I did?" She nodded. "Back in March. You joked that if things ever went bad, you'd use your escape route. I saved it." I laughed, sharp, sad, real. "I didn't think I'd actually do it," I said. She sipped her tea, then looked at me. "But you did." Silence again, then I told her everything. The dinner. The boat. The joke. The tone. The look in his eyes when I stood up, how it wasn't one moment, but all of them stacked together. The way his friends laughed. The way he dismissed me. The way I disappeared next to him, even when I tried to shine. Emily didn't interrupt once. Just listened like I was saying something sacred. When I finally stopped, she leaned back and said, "So, what now?" I exhaled. That was the question, wasn't it? I'd left the vacation. But not the marriage. "Not yet, I don't know," I said honestly. "But for the first time, I want to find out who I am without him." She nodded. "Start small." So I did. The next morning, I woke up early, opened the windows, and let light pour into the apartment. I played music I liked, songs Jason always rolled his eyes at. I ordered groceries and bought ingredients for a dinner I wanted, not what he would have preferred. I wore a face mask and danced barefoot in the kitchen while pasta boiled. Each thing was small. But each thing was mine. Jason called 4 times that day. I didn't answer. He sent a voice message. Then another. Then a long email. Apologies. Rationalizations. Gaslight-laced sweetness. I read it all. Then archived it.no reply. Later that night, I sat at the dining table, eating alone but not lonely. I journaled for the first time in years, and I wrote something I hadn't dared admit before. He didn't destroy me, he just gave me a mirror, and I finally looked. Chapter 5. I didn't leave to hurt him, But I didn't come back for him either. He waited a full week before showing up. I was at my apartment, folding laundry and listening to a podcast when I heard the knock. Not the buzzer, not a text first, just knock knock knock, like he was still entitled to that level of access. I froze, not from fear, but from the weight of inevitability. I opened the door. Jason stood there in jeans and a hoodie, sunburn peeling off his nose, a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. His eyes scanned me quickly, like he wasn't sure what version of me he was looking at. "You look different," he said. I didn't reply. I stepped aside, wordless, and let him in. He walked to the kitchen, glanced around, saw his favorite mug on the shelf, still there. I watched as he tried to read the room. "To read me? I didn't know if you'd talk to me," he said. I leaned against the wall. I wasn't sure either. He looked nervous. "That was new. I panicked," he said. "When I realized you were gone. I didn't think you'd actually leave." I let silence hang. He kept going. "The whole thing at dinner. I didn't mean to embarrass you. It was just a story. Everyone was laughing. And you thought that made it okay?" I asked softly. He swallowed. "No," he admitted. "Not when you left. Not when I saw your chair empty. That's when I knew I went too far." I nodded. "But here's the thing," I said. "You've gone too far before. It wasn't just the story. It was the pattern. You don't see it. You make me feel small when other people are watching." Jason looked down. "I didn't mean to." "That's the problem," I said. "You don't even notice." "But I do. Every time." He sat down on the edge of the couch, elbows on knees. "I messed up." I sat across from him, knees crossed, back straight. "Calm, I don't hate you," I said. "I'm not doing this to punish you. I needed space to remember what I sound like when I'm not apologizing." That made him wince. He tried again. "Can we fix this?" I took a deep breath. "There's no way to fix if only one of us is willing to see the cracks." He nodded slowly, processing. "So, what now?" I stood, walked to the kitchen, grabbed the envelope I'd prepared 2 nights ago. "I think you need to live somewhere else for a while. Figure out what you want. Because I already know what I don't." I handed him the envelope. Inside, a list of his things already packed. A short letter, not cruel, not dramatic. Just true. He didn't say anything. Just held the envelope like it burned. Then, almost childlike, he asked, "Are we done?" I looked him in the eyes. "Not with anger. With truth. I don't know. But we're not what we were. And I'm not who I was." He stood, glanced around once more, then walked to the door. Before he opened it, he turned to me one last time. "I miss her. The you I met back then." I smiled, gently. "So do I. I think I'm finally finding her again." And with that, he left. I stood in the stillness, heart beating, breath steady. Outside, the sky had shifted to gold. The kind of light you only get after a storm. I poured a glass of water. Sat down by the window. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was waiting for something to happen. It already had.